I'm David Fairclough. This is Football History Wars. You're watching the Football History Podcast.
We'll start off with programmes, so just compare old and new. What you prefer between those two, please?
I prefer the old ones. I have to say, they're easy to read. I mean, I've got so many of these things in the boot of my car. I never get really I never get through to reading it all the way through. But I like it nice and short and simple. Just say what it is. Enjoy the old ones.
Yeah, do you keep any from your playing days?
I had a lot from. I do have a little bit of a collection actually.
Yeah.
Of the old ones.
Right, your Shin Pads. So, modern and older.
Well, I think you've got to go with the modern. I remember having these. Don't know how much they actually protected me from. I think there's little canes in there, but really novel. There's something and nothing, aren't they? I think a lot of players actually would probably choose those now because they don't offer that much of a sort of a stiffness on your shins, but these things are I'd be happy using those. I've got a pair of my Shin Pads in the garage actually. God blimey, they're well used.
Footballs. So this is a newer ball, and obviously this is a remake of the older balls that were at the start, but you would have played at the very start with some of the heavier leather balls and all stuff like that. So what was it like playing with them, and then what did you prefer?
Well, as a kid, I had a ball like that. I remember the old system of putting in my mouth. I remember the old system of lacing them up. It was always difficult to actually make a decent thing of it because to get it tight enough. But that's relatively modern by comparison. Often baffled to think when you hear stories of Billy Little hitting balls like a cannonball or as hard as a cannonball, but actually the thing weighed like a cannonball as well. It defies logic sometimes. But I think there's no doubt the ball has progressed so much more.
That one. I'll swap it with you.
And certainly, the modern ball is. It's the way. It's been the way forward, and it's a huge help, I think, in playing the game these days. I mean, you can be guaranteed more of a more consistent sort of reaction of the ball. It'll roll better, bounce better. The other one, you often didn't know which way it was going to bounce. It could, and sometimes they resembled squares rather than circles.
A bit before your time, these boots, but there's a more modern pair of boots, and then there's a more old school one. What would you prefer to play in, maybe, should we say?
There's absolutely no doubt that you'd prefer to play in the modern shoe. It's lightweight. You don't feel as if perhaps your foot is probably wrapped up and sort of restricted from movement. Strangely, I've got my very first pair of football boots, not as big as that, they're only small ones, but they don't. They do resemble them. Strangely, they didn't have the sort of nail-in studs or however you thingy them in, but they resemble them. My very first football boots. They're only tiny, but football has progressed so much in that sense. The modern football boot is an ass. It definitely helps you now in terms of movement and sort of weight. I mean, the only way.
Right, so just got shirts left, so I'll show you an older one first. It might ring a bit of a bell for you.
Yeah. And
then a newer one after that. What do you prefer? Design, look, feel? What would you rather play in?
Yeah, I mean, we were grateful to wear any shirt that we were given, but there's no doubt that by the late 70s, shirts were improving dramatically, and when the Airtex style came about, they were much more preferable than the others. They didn't hold as much sort of water when you were playing on rainy days and what have you. I have no problem with those, to be honest with you. Yeah. The old 70s style, but the modern ones have become much more sort of comfortable and I don't think they kind of dry on you as you're playing. So on really rainy days, I think they'd have been an asset.
So you picked the newer ones.
Yes, indeed.
New football history stuff or the newer stuff has won.
Yeah, new equipment definitely beats the old style. I think we've made great improvements in football, in football material.
Locking eyes from across the room, heart is pounding. What have I have to lose? This kind of feeling tends to blur your sight.